Anxiety is a disorder, or is a feeling of intense worry, fear, tension about future events. Future events that you expect to happen. For example, maybe your birthday is coming up, or possible events such as it's going to rain or it may rain, and imagined events. For example, it may rain on your birthday and water will splash from a car that's passing and mess up your beautiful birthday clothes. Did you see what I did there? So, anxiety is when we are tense, worried, or afraid about future events, whether these events are actual or possible or imagined. Okay? So, I want to differentiate it from occasional anxiety, where you just think about something, you are wondering what's going to happen tomorrow. Maybe you had plans maybe to go out. It's a Saturday, you want to go out maybe and watch a movie, and you're thinking, will there be traffic? Will there not be traffic on your way to the cinema? That is normal anxiety. You would just call it normal anxiety. But what we are discussing here is a disorder. It becomes a disorder when it impacts your life and your ability to live life normally and to the fullest. Now, what I want to also do is differentiate it from depression. Last week we discussed depression, right? And we talked about how depression is an intense feeling of like a cloud of darkness and sadness over your head. It's caused by so many things, and it can lead to other illnesses, right? But most of the time, depression is a phenomenon where you are obsessed and thinking about things that happened in the past, and you almost cannot get out of your head things that have been negative most of the time that have happened in the past. Anxiety is when you cannot get out of your head and you're always worried about things that are supposed to happen or could happen in the future. So that's a differentiation between anxiety and depression. It does happen that they could be linked together. Sometimes, because you are depressed about something. Thank you. Normal anxiety, you just think about stuff, maybe the weather tomorrow, or what you should wear, maybe based on the weather, what you should wear, how to dress for it. Basically, normal anxiety leads you to a sensible action point. In a way, you could say so. But when an anxiety becomes a disorder is when it affects your life and how you live your life. And I also was differentiating it from depression, where a lot of the time depression is where you are stuck under a dark, sad cloud, and it's really concentrated around past events, while anxiety is concentrating or worrying and freaking out about future events. So we've differentiated it from normal anxiety. We're talking anxiety disorders right now. I want to read something that Dr. Oz, you guys know the popular Dr. Oz, said about anxiety. 1 second. He said, anxiety is where you build a fortress inside your mind to protect yourself. You think you're building up walls that keep you safe. Instead, you are actually building a cage for yourself. It results in an intense entrapment where you are rigid and cannot move. When you have normal anxiety, that is, maybe you're anxious or you think about something that is happening in the future, the next normal reaction is for you to act upon it, do something about it. But when you have anxiety disorder, you are going round and round in circles, worrying about the thing, but you don't do anything about it. We'll explain and touch on the worry loop very soon, but I I just wanted to read out what Dr. Oz said about it, because it's like a cage. You feel like, let's say if you are worried about your health and you have an anxiety disorder about your health, you think about the symptoms, you think about possible ways of contracting a disease, you think about all sorts of things that have to do with your health or have to do with a particular disease. You're compulsive about it. You have anxiety disorder. And it's important for you to know that most of the time when you are in that state of mind, it's like a cage. Thank you, Marianne, for joining. Thank you so much. It's like a cage. You are imprisoned, but you're not able to get out of it. That is an anxiety disorder, and we're going to go to the types of anxiety disorder very soon. But let's talk about symptoms quickly. It could include physical symptoms as they affect you: shortness of breath, feeling heat palpitations, that is, you feel a rising up of being hot, right? Sometimes it shows up physically like that. Heart palpitations, where you can feel your heart thumping in your chest. Extreme, it can really be extreme. Chest pain, dizziness, feeling like you want to throw up. That is it's a common symptom of anxiety disorder. Feeling like maybe you are really going crazy, or like you're losing touch with reality. Sometimes the anxiety can also affect you so much that you feel like you are disconnected from yourself, disconnected from your body, disconnected from even reality. You're not sure what day it is. You don't know what color is something. But that feeling of disconnection or dissociation is also a part or an effect of anxiety. Other symptoms of anxiety could be stomach upsets, weakness in your legs, sleep problems, also when you're not able to fall asleep, or when you're not able to wake up and get up and stand up and do stuff. Acute fear, extreme acute fear. People that experience these symptoms of anxiety disorder are really going through stuff. And then the thing about anxiety disorder is that it can come in spells or in cycles. It may not be an everyday thing. It could be, thank you so much for joining. Thank you, Jesus Sharon. Thank you so much for joining. It could be that people experience it for an intense time of 2 weeks, then it ceases. They experience it for another 4 weeks or to 6 weeks, then it ceases. So these symptoms, you can experience anxiety disorder at any time. And I was talking about the fact that with normal anxiety, just being worried about something in passing, most of the time you do something, you act upon it. You're thinking about tomorrow, you want to go to the cinema, you worry about whether or not it's going to rain, or you worry about whether or not there will be traffic on your way there. You do something about it. Either you make plans to leave the house earlier, or you carry an umbrella, or you wear a coat, that kind of thing. The point is, normal, I won't call it normal anxiety, but first level anxiety makes you do something positive to try and combat what you are worried about. But the anxiety disorder creates a worry loop in your brain where you only go over and over and over the details that you have and the details that you do not have. So you now break out into different scenarios. Oh, it's going to rain, or it could rain. What if it rains and the whole of Nnamdi Azikiwe Road or the whole of Kennedy Road is flooded? What if it rains and my clothes are stained? What if it rains and there's a shutdown and there's an electricity breakdown, and so the movie theater cannot function? Can you see how you've just taken it from what if it rains into like all sorts of different scenarios? That is what we call the worry loop. And you keep going in and out of the worry loop when you are experiencing an anxiety disorder. It's not something to be toyed with. It's something that can trap you, like I read out in that quote from Dr. Oz. It can entrap you, and you actually are creating a cage for yourself in your thoughts. Let's talk about cortisol. It is a stress hormone that we experience, or that we secrete in our minds. Cortisol is the thing that causes the fight or flight or freeze reflex. For example, a dog is coming at you and it's barking. Cortisol is released in your brain along with adrenaline, and you're thinking to yourself, do I stand and stay where I am? What do I do? You may be freezing. Thank you, Angela, for joining. You may be freezing. Or do I run away from this dog? Or do I fight this dog? Maybe you feel like the dog is attacking you. Thank you, Buki, for joining. So, in this our example, there are 3 responses: fight, flight, or freeze. That is what the chemical or the naturally occurring hormone called cortisol does in our brain. But when we are having anxiety disorders, we have an excess of the cortisol, and it continuously loops in our brain. Oh, what do I do? Sometimes, the dog example is a physical example, right? But in our minds, if the scenario we are imagining is in our thoughts, there's no physical dog in front of you, but it's in your thoughts. You're worried about something that could be dangerous to you in a way. You think it's dangerous to you. Then your brain automatically also produces the same cortisol. It's imagined, but your brain feels like it's really, really happening. Fight, flight, or freeze. When you are having when you're experiencing, or anybody that you know is having anxiety disorder, it is a continuous loop. That's why I called it the worry loop. It's a continuous. Thank you, Tokwe, for joining. It's a continuous loop, over and over and over again. And it can now further produce even other physical chronic illnesses due to a prolonged cortisol exposure. Let me read those illnesses out to you. They include, where did I have them? I have them. Sorry, guys. Yeah, so it could be ulcer, hypertension, diabetes, bone loss, arthritis. All these could be, and they have linked it, science has linked it to elevated stress disorders, because your brain is, thank you, Anne, for joining, because your brain is overexposed to the cortisol hormone. So now we understand that anxiety and anxiety disorder is an intense feeling of worry, fear, and acute tension about stuff that stuff that is about to happen or may happen in the future. We have discussed symptoms of anxiety, and we have also said that anxiety can lead to a worry loop, where you are thinking about different scenarios of things that could happen in the future, but you don't do anything about it. You are trapped in your own thoughts. You experience that shoot of cortisol, which is the brain hormone that helps you in a physical situation to either run away, which is flight, fight, whatever the thing is, or freeze where you are. Now, anxiety can lead to even worrying some more about anxiety. Do you guys understand what I mean? So you can be anxious about being anxious. That's crazy. And you feel like you cannot stop worrying. And then sometimes it can lead to you needing assurance from other people. You're worried and you're saying you say to someone else, is this really going to happen? What do you think about this? Am I worrying about this too much? Right? So you can be worried about being worried. It's super, super intense. And as I said, it also leads to sleep problems. You're unable to relax. It's super, super, super important for us to take it very, very seriously, because these elevated stress disorders can lead to actual physical diseases that affect our physical response. Okay. Now we're going to move about 4 causes of the disorder. The first one would be mental or emotional stressors. Excuse me. And I'll further break this one down because it is multifaceted. Now, you could have adverse childhood experiences. Somebody, maybe when they were 8 or 9 or 5 or 6, in their childhood could have experienced things that are negative, terrible, traumatic. It could be the loss of a loved one. So I'm still talking about adverse childhood experiences. It could be the loss of a loved one. It could be an experience of sexual, physical, or emotional abuse when they were younger. So these are adverse childhood experiences. Now, in your adulthood, also part of mental or emotional stressors could be physical and emotional traumas. Maybe you got into an accident, you experienced a major injury or some form of illness or infection. Thank you so much for joining. Or infection, some form of emotional abuse or trauma, physical abuse. Something happened, right? Or you experienced, as I said, a life stressor, right? That could be you lost a job, you lost a loved one, you lost an opportunity. Whatever it is, those are life stressors. Maybe you're going through a really bad time financially. Those are all life stressors. So that is group 1 of causes. Yeah. Number 2 could be genetics. And as I've said before, I said it last week. I'm pretty sure that I said it last week, that genetics is twofold. Either it could be in the actual chromosomes that you inherited from your mother and father, or that is DNA, that you inherited from your mother and father, or the behavioral tendencies that you watched and saw happen with your physical eyes, right? So let me break that down some more. Let's say your mom was an alcoholic. It's just an example. Let's say your mom was an alcoholic. You may have inherited the DNA, something physical from her when you were born. But it's more likely that you observed the behaviors. You observed her manner of speaking. You observed her depressive experiences, things that happened that led to her alcoholism or effects of her alcoholism. And then you may now start tending towards that same light. So when we talk genetics, it can be twofold. You could physically inherit it, or you could watch it happen. And so you are conditioned by the environment of being with your parents. Okay? The third cause of anxiety disorder could be your diet. This is for real, and I will speak about it in solutions later on. But for real, there are dietary factors when you are not getting the right nutrients, when there's some form of hormonal imbalance within your system that causes anxiety disorders. There are some types of food that we eat. And I'm not saying this because now I live in Canada. Even in Nigeria, there are processed foods, sugary foods that we should not be eating, that we eat that actually cause inflammation in the brain. Yes. Even, permit me, it may be a bit hard for us to grasp, but even meat, chicken, dairy, it has a way of causing inflammation in your brain. I'm not saying that, hey, swear off meat, right, and become a vegetarian, but it's really something to consider. Our diet affects our brain. It is a real thing. So I was talking about diet, and then, so apart from the inflammation, it can also, depending on the type of food we eat or the type of food that we do not eat, it can cause weak immune systems, which leads to even worse and chronic illnesses. Yes, diet, ma'am. Yes, diet. Hi, welcome. Thank you for joining. So nutrition deficiencies, hormonal imbalance, weak immune systems, inflammation in your they're all grouped together as diet, and they can cause anxiety disorder. The last one I would say is your physical environment. So physical environment, maybe you are overexposed to metal. Yes, it sounds like a complex foreign thing, but you could be overexposed to metal, you could be overexposed to mold, you could be overexposed or not exposed enough to sunlight. These have a way of affecting you and causing or triggering or contributing to anxiety disorders. So I need us to really, really, get that. So we've spoken about the causes of anxiety disorders. Now, there are a few types of anxiety disorders that I want us to discuss, just for us to know that there are different types. The first one would be generalized anxiety disorders. That means that you are worried intensely about different things in your life. Different things. You're thinking to yourself whether or not you're gonna have enough money, for example, to pay the bills, or you're worried about your daughter and maybe what she's doing with her friends in school, and you're obsessing about it. So different things is general anxiety disorder, and when you have this, it's usually because of an underlying fear that you have in your mind and in your emotions. The next one is social anxiety disorder. Anything that will lead you to being in public, going to a meeting, going to a party, interacting with other people, and you are afraid. You are intensely afraid. That is social anxiety disorder. And it's important for us to note that it can come out and expose itself in your fear of public speaking. And of course, we may not know, so I don't want to assume that everybody knows that. Sometimes when you are afraid of speaking in public, you can actually feel physically sick. You can shake and so on and so forth. But fear of public speaking, even though it's related to this social anxiety disorder, is different from it, because social anxiety disorder means that you don't even want to be around people, or you are afraid of being around other human beings. You have panic anxiety disorder. Yes, it's weird because an extreme form of anxiety disorder leads to panic attacks. But when you are afraid of having panic attacks because you've been having it in a recurring way, and then you are now extremely fearful of the occurrence or the possibility that you could have a panic attack, that can trigger another attack. It's a loop and it's something that it's a form of or a type of anxiety disorder. Another type of anxiety disorder. Hi FG, thank you for joining. Hi Adedayomi, thank you for joining. Another type of anxiety disorder are phobias, which is extreme fear of something. Maybe extreme fear of heights, extreme fear of the color black, extreme fear I'm wearing black. Anyway, extreme fear of spiders or of cockroaches. Extreme fear. That is a phobia, and there are different phobias. People are afraid, like intensely afraid of different things. Maybe being in crowded spaces, being in elevators, some people are actually afraid of going up the staircase. Yes. So there are different forms of anxiety disorders. Another anxiety disorder that has been, sort of popular, and we talk about it now, is PTSD. That is post-traumatic stress disorder. And maybe you've experienced something that you considered traumatic in your life. Maybe, for example, you came face to face with a gunman, or for example, you were in a ghastly accident, or maybe you experienced a fire, and you survived a fire. Those things are traumatic. And then people suffering from PTSD, now you can see that maybe they relive the moments, right? So they have repetitive thoughts about the thing that they experienced. So it can also lead to nightmares. So they are dreaming, wake up in sweat, dreaming about those things that they experienced that was traumatic to them. Another type of anxiety disorder is what we know as OCD, obsessive compulsive disorders, where you have repetitive thoughts and behaviors and urges that somehow they don't feel like you can control them, and it's about something. The most commonly joked about OCD or obsessive compulsive disorder are people that are like what we call neat freaks. People that they can wipe a table 20 times, they can wash their hands 100 times, right? So that is compulsive, and it is a form of anxiety disorder. Some people are worried about their health, their physical health. They go check online about different diseases. Maybe they hear of SARS, or they hear of an epidemic happening somewhere that's really far away from them, and then they are constantly researching, constantly asking, constantly thinking about it. That is a health anxiety disorder, right? So remember that we said that our definition of anxiety disorders is an intense fear, tension, and worry about a future event. Whether that future, thank you so much for joining, whether that future event is real, that is, it's actual, it is possible, or it is imagined. Okay? So anxiety is really about the future, where you are extremely freaked out about something that could happen in the future. Thank you so much for joining, Timisan. Thank you, Tayo, for joining. I would encourage us to catch the replay, because we've gone a bit, we've gone far. We're still on types of anxiety disorders right now. And the next one, the second to the last one I will speak about, is the body dysmorphic disorder, where you are extremely anxious about your body. You are obsessed about your physical appearance. That is a type of anxiety disorder. You are obsessed about what will people think about you or say about you, because your nose is too big. Is my nose too big? But you understand what I mean? Or you feel like you are too dark in complexion, or you are too light in complexion, or you are too tall, or you are too short, or certain part of you is disproportionate. It could be true, but when you experience an anxiety disorder about your body, then you form scenarios in your mind with regards to that, your physical appearance. The last one I would speak about as a type of anxiety disorder is what is called perinatal anxiety disorder. That means that you experience this anxiety disorder when you are pregnant as a woman or within the first year of giving birth. You're anxious about something that has to do with the baby or even just events around you, but it is triggered by conception. So you experience the anxiety disorder in pregnancy or in the first 1 year, 9 months to 1 year of your giving birth. Okay. I want us to remember that every emotional and mental disorder is triggered. It can be triggered by events in your life. It can be triggered by past childhood experiences. It can be triggered by your diet. And we spoke about it earlier on. It can be triggered by your environment. So here are a few solutions to, well, you would call them self-help, the first steps that you can take as a person if you feel like you are experiencing some of the symptoms that I had explained and described, before. So the first thing I would want to say is that there's a difference between scenario planning and preparation and worrying or being anxious. There is a difference. Worrying, that's on one side. Worrying and being anxious in a disorderly way or in a way that has now almost crippled you. You can't go about your life. That's when it becomes a disorder. You can't go about your life, or it impacts the way you live, the way you interact with people, your ability to do the things that you are supposed to do. Maybe keeping a job, being a leader in your business, or interacting with your friends and family and relations, doing the things that you would normally do. That's when it becomes a disorder, when this anxiety affects these parts of your life. So when you're worrying or being anxious in an excessive way, you are not taking positive action to combat what you are worrying about or to prepare for what you are worrying about. I gave the example of a future event such as tomorrow. You're going to the cinema and you're worried that it may rain. If you are just slightly or normally or first level worrying that it may rain, you plan to pack up your umbrella. You take your umbrella and put it in your bag. That is a positive action to combat what you are worried about. Or you wear a raincoat. Yes? But when it becomes a disorder, you're not able, hi Posh Brandy, you're not able to do anything, to take positive action in the direction of combating what you are worried about. So instead of first level worrying, you are now second level worrying and saying, what if it rains? What if it rains so much that there's a flood? What if it rains so much that I get in a car and the flood takes over the car, or I'm on the road and a car splashes and stains my clothes and I'm not able to go to the movie anymore and I'm late, and because I'm not able to go to the movie anymore, I cannot meet up with my friends. And you keep going on and deeper into the various scenarios, right? That is on one side of worrying, the worry loop and anxiety disorder. The other side, which we are trying to now bring up as a solution, is what is called in management, in life, as scenario planning, preparation. Because, we say it that if you don't plan, if you fail to plan, then you plan to fail. So let's say you're talking about, you're thinking about it raining tomorrow. I'm just using this simple example so that we can all get the point, right? So you're thinking about it raining tomorrow. Scenario planning will say, okay, I need to get my umbrella, I need to pick up my coat, I need to ensure that I do not wear a something that can easily get stained because it's going to rain? Or maybe, should I postpone my movie date? Maybe I call the person that I'm supposed to meet up with and say, hey, it's going to rain in the morning, let's do this in the evening. The point is scenario plannings, right? You think about what could happen as a result of the rain, that future event that you think you're wondering or worried about, and you go ahead and take necessary steps to combat it. So our number one solution is scenario planning and action, of course, requisite or necessary action. The number two solution I'm recommending would be to brainstorm with a friend. But if you brainstorm with a friend, then you guys put your heads together. So you call a friend, hey, it's going to rain. What do we do? I'm using this rain as a simple example, right? It's going to rain. What do we do? You guys think of what to do. Maybe you take a cab instead of taking a motorbike, a bike to where you're going so that you're not drenched in the rain. Or you decide you're going to postpone the movie date or something. You brainstorm with your friend and then you take necessary steps, okay? This is when you find that you are obsessively worrying about something. Another thing which is closely linked to the number one solution is that when you are doing your scenario planning with a friend or by yourself, you actually set a timer. That is amazing. So you decide that I'm going to think about this thing, but for only 5 minutes. And when you're setting your timer, it's there. You make a commitment to yourself that you are only going to think about it, but for only 5 minutes. And so in your scenario planning, you're writing out what could happen. What can I do about it? What are the possible things that could... Sorry, please hold on. Oh my God. Okay, you know what? If something is going on with the phone that I'm using on the Instagram live, as soon as if it goes off, I will get back on. I promise. So we may have a part 2 now, but we're talking about different solutions, right, to anxiety disorder. So you write it down, okay? So that, obviously that also leads to journaling. We may go back to journaling over and over again, but you're scenario planning with a timer and you're writing down, because you find out that if maybe in your scenario planning you thought about a solution but didn't write it down, you may go back again in the worry loop and still worry about the same thing that you may have thought of a solution to but cannot remember, or your brain doesn't recognize that you have already solved as a problem. Okay? So that is the reason why you always should write down the issues. Oh, sorry, not the issues, the solutions. Your scenario, you think about the possible scenarios and you write down the solutions or action steps that you must take. Talk to somebody. Maybe you find that you are consistently worried about something. You may also need to talk to someone that you trust. That is a major solution. You are consistently worried maybe about what is going to happen next year. You don't know, maybe something that has to do with your family or has to do with your finances. Whatever the case may be, whatever you are extremely worried and anxious about, please talk to somebody. The next thing I would say is take care of your physical health. This includes eating, exercises, rest, avoiding stress. I'm going to specifically touch on eating. That is, what your kind of diet, because as I said before, your diet can trigger a weakened immune system. It can trigger nutritional deficiencies that can lead to these anxiety disorders. So, as I said earlier on, I'm not saying that we should go off meat, but I want to recommend that we try. Sorry, guys. I want to recommend that we try a plant-based diet. Can we try that? Those of you that are here with me live, what do you guys think? Can you try a plant-based diet? That is, so no meat, no chicken, no eggs. Just try it for a week. Let's see how you feel. What happens to you? The amount of the kind of clear head that you feel, and you stick to fruits and vegetables. Stick to things that came out of the earth and avoid processed foods. Cut out coffee. Drink lots of water instead. Avoid, to the best of your ability, yeah? Avoid sugar and all those things that could increase inflammation, like I explained earlier on in the video. Let's see how you feel afterwards. And I mean, this is not just for those that may be experiencing anxiety disorders. You find out that when people make such important and drastic changes in their diet, they feel better, they look better, they lose weight, they are more agile, they are fitter, you know. So it's not a diet, because most of the time diets are not sustainable, because you have this craving, you feel like some things are forbidden, and you therefore, because it's forbidden, you are more attracted to it and doing it and eating it, right? But just try it as a lifestyle. Let's just try a plant-based diet for a week. I wonder if we are willing and open to that possibility. But let me give you some things that you can add to your diet that will help, especially with anxiety and depression as disorders. The first thing would be turmeric. Turmeric is a root plant, and it looks like ginger, but it's not. The women here may be able to identify it. It's an intense orange color. Turmeric, if you Google it, you'll find it. A lot of the time you need to eat it with a healthy fat so that your body can absorb it. Okay, so turmeric, you eat it with healthy fats such as coconut oil or milk, peanut oil. Well, you can have peanut oil, but peanut butter, almond milk. Those are very, very very, very healthy fats. You also should eat, most of the time, turmeric. It's a spice, so you add it to food. Make sure you add it along with black pepper, which is also a spice. Then you have something called bromelain. You can find it mostly in pineapple. And instead of cutting out the core, the middle of a pineapple, and throwing it away, you can actually eat that core of the pineapple. It has bromelain, and it's very, very good for you. Other things like herbs, mints, herbal teas, chamomile teas, ginger itself. Ginger is extremely, extremely good for you. Avocados. Did you know that avocados relieve stress? It is a healthy fat. It has so much nutrients. It's very dense. It's actually known as a superfood. Walnuts. I've mentioned almonds also, and pumpkin seeds. Very, very, very important. Thank you for joining. Very, very important. All these foods, they are anti-inflammatory. They help to calm the pressure on the brain. Okay, they help increase your memory. That is, help your memory itself. Thank you yesterday for joining. I would encourage you to catch the replay. We have gone far. We are currently talking about diet as it relates to and helps anxiety disorders. And I said that all these really great foods that I mentioned, ginger, turmeric, herbs, pumpkin seeds, avocados, walnuts, almonds, they serve as anti-stressors. They provide omega-3 fatty acids, which boosts your cerebral cortex. It's extremely important. So catch the replay, you guys. And you find that you are what you eat. The better you are at eating the right things, the better you feel. Hey, thank you, Mom at 40. Thanks, Suzette, for joining. The better you will feel. So the last solution I would recommend with regards to anxiety disorder is for you to try breathing exercises. Breathing exercises as a practical thing, because when people are experiencing anxiety and panic attacks, they find it difficult to breathe, they feel dizzy, they're experiencing nausea, they feel like their heart is thumping in their chest, they feel chest pain. You can try breathing exercises, deep breaths, trying to relax. And no problem, please catch the replay. Thank you for joining though. Thank you so much. In fact, did you know that some of the symptoms of the anxiety disorder, you can find yourself grinding your teeth unconsciously and even at night. Yeah. So we have actually come to the end of this live webinar today. It's been wonderful. Thank you so much to all those that joined. We did this for about 52 minutes. Thank you so much. There was a question that someone asked me 2 days ago, and it's likely that we may all be thinking that, why do I do this? Why these live videos every week dealing with emotional health, emotional disorders, mental disorders? Why do I do this? I do it because everyone has got issues. Some of us are just good at masking our issues. Others are good at hiding them. Some are good at suppressing them. But everybody has got issues. And even if you do not feel like you have an issue or an emotional disorder right now, you may manifest it in the future. Even if it's not about you, you also have friends, family, and loved ones that may be going through these things. That is why I do this. And the Soul Clinic is here to help out, to listen, not necessarily to advise, because sometimes, most of the time, you just need somebody to listen to you in a non-judgmental way. And so we are here for you. We are here as trained counselors, and if necessary, we will recommend you see. If it's necessary, we will recommend that you see a licensed psychiatrist or psychologist that can take any issue further. Okay? Yesterday says meditation helps a great deal. Exactly. We discussed meditation as an emotional health hack on Tuesday. I would love to refer you guys to it. Please check out the article. It's on both our Facebook and our Instagram page. It gives you reasons why you should meditate and how you should meditate, how often you can also meditate. So please go ahead and take advantage of all the resources. I want to recommend to you guys, thank you so much for the hearts. I want to recommend to you guys to listen to the podcast. You can listen to it on SoundCloud. The link is in our bio. Listen, engage, recommend to somebody, share, because you have absolutely no idea what the person next to you is going through. We're done. Some people refuse. Okay, I'm glad that I'm getting comments and questions. Mom at 40, Suziet says, but some people refuse to accept that they have issues. How can we help such people? You have to do it gently. You have to speak gently. You have to not be pushy about, if you observe that someone is experiencing an emotional disorder. You observe, you look at the signs, and when you are now speaking to them, you find an appropriate time and place where you can speak to them privately and gently, and you say, hey, I've observed that this happens, you do this, you say this, you seem to be exhibiting these signs of an emotional disorder. Would you like to talk about it? Would you like some help? That's really it. And then if they say no, you need to back off, because everybody is they are responsible for themselves. But if they say yes, you take it slowly from there. You talk about it. You're not judgmental in any way, because you see, sometimes even the expression on our faces or the replies that we give or the tone of voice can make people that are already going through things feel like you're judging them. And it's extremely important for you not to judge, because you don't know background. You don't know everything that has happened to a person that may make them act, behave, or think or feel a certain way. Do we have any other questions? Thank you, guys. Thank you to the Facebook audience. Thank you to Instagram audience. I would recommend that we catch the replay, because we really spoke a lot and in depth about anxiety, the disorder, and the worry loop. I will give it 30 more seconds. Let me plug. Okay. Yes, CT says, I just send them affirmation videos and believe God's got them. That's also a way to go. The Soul Clinic is faith-based, so I am not ashamed of my faith. And as a prime solution to a lot of the emotional disorders, whether it's depression or it's anxiety disorder or any of the other disorders that I will discuss as the weeks go by, prayer is very, very important. Prayer, bringing God into your situation, whether it's just a simple prayer, heartfelt, or it's something that is long and prolonged, prayer is also very important.